All right. Hygiene Elevated Conversations and Innovations. Tonight we've got Deanna Montoya with us, sharing us her journey and the insight to owning her own hygiene practice. Deanna, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. All
Appreciate it.
right. I want to dive right in. Deanna, can you share your journey from being a dental hygienist to owning your own practice? We want to know what inspired you to take the leap and share all of your entrepreneurial ventures outside of dental hygiene with us.
Um, so I've been doing hygiene now for 28 years. So I graduated hygiene school in 95. I love the field. I love it. But New Mexico, in a way, has always been a little bit more progressive. I don't know if you agree with that, Amanda. We were like one of the
Mhm.
first states that were able to give anesthesia
Yep.
before other states. And we could own, I think we were one of the first places where we could do collaborative hygiene and practice on our own. So that was always kind of in the back of my head that I wanted to do that. I don't know how long into it. I've been doing it at 28 years. I've owned my dental practice now for 10. So probably I probably thought about it like after 10 years into doing hygiene that it would be kind of interesting to own my own practice. And so I was working with Dr. Combs at the time up here in rural communities. That's about a mile from my house. He was an older dentist, had been there about 6 years with him. And he, one day at the beginning of the summer, was getting ready to go on vacation. He's like, "Oh, I got to tell you, I'm retiring at the end of the summer." And I'm
Oh
like,
gosh.
"Okie doke. Okay. Thanks for telling me right before vacation." And I'm like, "Well, so did you sell the practice? Like, what's going to happen? You know?" And he's like, "No, nope. I'm just going to close. I'm not going to sell it." I guess he said he had it on the market for a while and it didn't do anything. So I was like, "Oh, like, I think I blurted the words out before I even thought about what I was saying." And I was like, "Well, I'll buy it from you." Like it was a fully established practice and all I needed to do was get a dentist. So I blurted that out to him, came home, told my husband, he thinks I'm a little crazy. Like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "This is a no-brainer. Like, it's a fully established practice. I just need to find a dentist." And we're good to go. I mean, I'm the hygienist, I have a staff, and that's kind of where it came from 10 years ago, just from my dentist retiring, and he couldn't sell the practice.
So there's more to that story, Deanna. So there's a lot of background just with New Mexico. Joffrey has recently discovered how rural and really what the socioeconomic status of New Mexico is recently. She got to go and visit San Juan College and do a presentation up in Farmington. And that is definitely a very different situation than Salt Lake City, Utah. Now,
Mhm.
where you're at, we're Rio Communities Belen area is a bedroom community to Albuquerque, the largest
Right.
metropolitan city in New Mexico. And that you talk about a poor county. Belen and Rio Communities is pretty poor and it's incredibly rural. So not only you're not buying a practice in a thriving city, you are
Right.
doing a huge community service because there's like what, 3 dentists in Belen, maybe?
Well, it's grown. I mean, I have one down the road from me, two down the road. So, I mean, there's two, three, four, four. There's four plus my office in
Yeah.
Belen. So it's growing a little bit. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
but it is very rural, and that is one of my challenges, not as far as patients, because the patient base is there. I have the
yeah.
patient load. Um, it's the hard part is getting the dentist to come work for me, and
Yes.
that is super hard. Um, I just can't get the younger dentists to commit to come out to wanna, like, be long-term in Belen because they don't wanna move to Belen because it is rural, there's not that much here. We are finally getting our first Starbucks, Amanda.
I saw that. Building is almost complete.
That's like that's like a thing I can like start putting on advertisement. Like we got a Starbucks now, they'll all come down here. But that has been that's one of the bigger challenges as far as being rural. I mean, patient wise, it's always been good, but I pull in a lot of patients from other rural towns in the area here. I mean, I get people from Socorro, that's 45 miles south of me. I get people from Mountain Air because those are rural areas. Like Mountain
Yeah.
Air does dentist, so they come.
Mhm.
Socorro has dentists, but they still come down to my place. But the challenge is finding a dentist to work for me. So
So, do you currently have a dentist in your office at the moment?
no, I do. I do. I have Dr. Wong, and she signed on for a 2-year contract. So her contract will be up at the end of the summer. So we're kind of in negotiations now as to if she'll stay on a little bit longer with me. Her fiance is actually a dentist as well. They both graduated in 2022. And so he is actually at another hygiene owned practice that's in Bosque Farms. And his contract's up. I don't think he's staying there for sure. He wants to open a practice, but he wants to do it in Albuquerque. So she'll
Oh,
follow wherever he goes.
Ugh.
So another thing, I would say there's only 4 hygiene owned practices in at least Albuquerque and Belen area in this area in New
Really?
Mexico. Yeah. That are like full that have dentists and stuff. I don't even know if there's any collaborative that are working on their own and then referring their patients out
Oh,
anymore.
is there, the one in Peralta still, the Just Clean Smiles or Just Clean Teeth?
Yeah, so that's Donna. That's where her fiance is working at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's
So,
working there.
that's definitely such a huge challenge to overcome, just having the dentist. So, what do you
It is.
do in those times where, like, you don't have a dentist? Do you collaborate with somebody and you refer to, or what do you do?
I don't want to think that to happen because it hasn't happened yet. So luckily I've been able to get dentists that it's consecutive. I've never been without a dentist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've always had a dentist. I mean, there's been times when so she's really been the only dentist that I've had like full time because a lot of times I was getting older dentists that practiced in Albuquerque, sold their practice, and the non-compete clause, they still wanted to practice, but they couldn't do it like for a 30-mile range of their practice. So I'd
Mm,
get them here and they would do like 2, 3 days a week. So that was always a challenge. So I definitely know that after having Dr. Wong here, that I definitely want a younger dentist and someone who's going to be here 4 days a week because it just works so much better and I have the patient load for it. So
so Diane, I thought it was pretty interesting that Dr. Wong and her husband are both dentists and they're both working for practices that are owned by the hygienists. Um, what do you think is like the biggest perk to a dentist working in a hygiene owned practice?
great question. So w- when I hired on Dr. Wong, I was like her first employer out of school. Um, when her fiance started, he actually went to be an associate with someone else, like up in the East Mountain, with an actual dentist owner. And that was very challenging from what I understand. Um, the dentist was more controlling of him,
mm,
not like wanting him to do procedures a certain way. And he would tell him, well, I want you to watch me do this crown prep. And while you're observing, I'm only going to give you like 25 bucks an hour. I'm not going to give you like your commission of what you're going to make. So, and then she's asking me questions and I'm like, hey, like if he signed a contract, that's what they should stick to. Like if that's not in the contract, then that dentist is probably doing them wrong. So
mhm,
one of the benefits about being in a hygiene owned practice, they're not competing with another dentist to get their production and work done. So that's like one of the big things because I think currently like right now um where he's working at there is one other dentist that's like part-time, but Dr. Wong is way busier than he is her fiance because she's the only dentist in my office. Plus, we expanded out like a lot, and I can go into that later because I'll probably throw you guys off. But so that would be one of the advantages of a dentist coming out and working for a hygiene owned practice. They're pretty much their own boss. The one of the disadvantages, and like what I had told Dr. Wong, like I can mentor her as far as like how to interact with the patients, how to kind of do the business side of it, how to some of the things that I've come across that I've been in dentistry forever. So there's some things I do know, like ideas or go over things, or if she has a question on like a growth in someone's mouth and what do I think, or she'll look at an x-ray and what do you think she should do, and I can help her with that. The only thing I can't help her with is if she gets into a hard extraction, I can't go in and save her from that. She's stuck in that. She has to get that tooth out. As if there was another dentist that with more experience, they would be able to go in and help her out. So that's like one of the disadvantages as far as like on hands clinical skills. I can't get her out of that. You know what I mean? Because I can't jump in and do it. So that's one of the
That
disadvantages.
exact situation happened to my doctor. So he's a brand new grad, I think this past May. So he's our associate and we love him to death, but he actually had a crown procedure and he was, removing an old crown and the tooth just split in half. And it was just a bad situation where he could not get the tooth out. And fortunately, our sister office is like, a Belen Los Lunas situation. So he was like 10 minutes down the road, was able to come like get the tooth out. But yeah. But not everybody wants to have that like hovering, if you will. You want to have that clinical autonomy, and everybody's different on what they want, especially straight out of school. There's certain things that you feel confident and ready to go for. And I think other people are like, yeah, I still feel like I could go for another year of mentorship. I mean, the same thing applies to hygiene school. Sometimes you just don't feel ready and you just need a little bit of support. So I definitely see that pro of, heck yeah, this is mine to do and to grow into. So that's
and then like on that, I think it makes them like kind of work a little bit harder because there is no
backup plan
way out, that there is no one to help them. So like she's been there a year and a half and it's not like we've been in the middle of an extraction and she couldn't get it and had to refer it out. I mean, she learned real quick like how to do it. Might take a little bit longer, but she's been capable to get them all out. Like, don't jinx myself because tomorrow I might have an extraction she can't get out. But and then just different things. I mean, I've even called on like past dentists that worked with me that have like the older ones. Like if there is something like we're like dumbfounded, I've called Dr. Grodner and been like, hey, what's the advice? What would you do on this? So I have mentors in that respect that have been there and worked with me, and I can call them and to help her out. But we haven't had to do it that much. So
that kind of going back to what you were saying at the very beginning, like New Mexico for, I love my state. For as backward as New Mexico is, I don't know how hygiene was able to be so progressive, and even wages are higher in New Mexico than they are here in Utah. And it's so bizarre to be in such a, I don't want to say progressive state, but a state that's doing so well for itself. But hygiene is behind in some other aspects, especially compared to New Mexico.
What are hygiene wages over there in Utah now?
Well, pre-COVID, Joffrey, what were wages pre-COVID?
Let's say at 35.
That's probably about what it is here. What were you making? Yeah.
Are you kidding me? When I was working for Dr. Hickson fresh out of school, I was getting $35 an hour.
Yeah, but now, what did you go up to?
Well, she gave a very generous hour or $1 bonus every year, or not bonus, but 1 hour raise every year. I was only there like 3 years. So
I don't, they're up to here, like now after COVID, probably 45.
Okay, COVID. That's similar. We're probably 45 right now too, post-COVID.
Depending.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd pay a new grad. I'm not trying to be mean, but I don't know if I'd pay a new grad $45 coming out and they want that. And it's like, you don't have the speed. You don't have
The skill.
You know, you've seen 3 patients, you gotta see 8. Like, I don't know.
So, what have been some other challenges for you, not just as a well, I don't wanna say as a small business owner, but as the owner of the practice? Obviously, finding a dentist is difficult. Like, you had an established patient base, so that was a huge, huge help,
Plus.
and you're a
Mhm.
major part of the community. Um, what are other challenges that you've kind of experienced, owning a practice or owning a business, period?
Well, every time I change a dentist, the patients don't like it. I have a lot of long-term patients and they're like, "Oh god, another dentist." So that's hard, you know, dealing
Yeah.
with the change of dentist. The other staff is like always steady. Like my staff's been there for a long time. And so comfort, they know they're going to see my daughter at the front desk, me cleaning their teeth, and Brittany doing assisting. And so that's, you know, the comfort. But it is challenging because they don't like the change in the dentist. So like maybe another challenge would be, and it's not necessarily hygiene owned, but another challenge is having to accept like every single insurance there is because people will not go unless you're a provider for that insurance.
Mm.
I mean, you know, talk about hygiene wages going up to like $45. You're on United Concordia as a provider and you're only getting reimbursed like $50 for a cleaning, you know?
Mhm.
So that's like what's really kind of hard. I guess I get to see like, I think if I was to like not have my practice anymore and go work for a dentist, I really probably wouldn't ask for that much in wages, knowing the business side of it is what it really is like, what really reimbursements are, if
Yeah.
that makes sense?
Yes,
Oh,
that's a perspective we haven't heard before, Deanna.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm taking that in. Yeah.
You know, because I feel for the doctors, because what are they really making off the hygiene is just the prophy, you know, and some sealants or x-rays and stuff like that in your SRPs. But like if you're on a recall and you're at, you know, some of these, and we're taking like a lot of the press senior cares and literally like I could do an exam and x-ray or exam and cleaning, and all I'm getting reimbursed for that is like $67 on that for and that's the exam and the prophy on some of these insurances. So it's
that's
crazy. It's
it.
really ridiculous. And
Yeah.
then you don't want to run somebody into the ground, be like, you got to see 10 patients a day to make that $45. I mean, if I was a higher hygienist at $45 an hour now, I would probably make them see like 10 patients a day. And that's rude. I mean, that's mean, you know what I
Well,
mean? But
hopefully with an
to get
assistant, right?
to make it. Huh?
Would you give him an assistant at least? Help him out a bit?
Yeah, maybe give them an assistant. 45 minutes, 5 in the
Well,
morning, 5 in the afternoon.
I
I
just
mean,
so happen to know a consultant that can, help with that, Deanna.
Lots of scheduling strategies.
Lots of strategies. So, I've seen on Facebook, because you and I are friends in real life, you've had some, like, wild break-ins in your office.
one wild one, that's it.
Okay, one wild one. Tell us that story.
I think it was a year after COVID. I think it was in 21, like in August of 21. Um, Normal day walking in on a Monday. I'm like, oh, is Britt here? The door's open. Is Brittany here already? My assistant? Did they drop her off? And everything's scattered, like trash cans and stuff like that. And I was like, "Oh, did it rain? Do I have leaks? Why did they pull all the trash cans out?" And I walk in and just like finally realize that okay, that someone broke in. I'm like, why is the light on in my bathroom? So I go in there to check the bathroom, and there's just a huge hole in my bathroom. They busted through the storage room and busted through the wall to get into the office. And so, you know me, I'm just kind of crazy. So I put it on Facebook. I was so upset.
You
And
did.
it took about to Tuesday to find out who did it.
Oh, really? You
They
found out
found the
who did
person?
it?
I have found out who did it. Yeah, found out
That's
who did it. He never formally got charged, but I found out who did it, and it was actually a patient of mine, and me and his mom were really good friends.
I was gonna say, that's
And
like the beauty of a small town. You can find out stuff really fast.
yeah, and he has issues with drugs and stuff like that, which was really sad because I was like one of his biggest supporters. Every time he would get out, like, you know what, if you have any problems, like I'll help you out. And yeah, but I found out who it was. So needless to say, he's
Wow.
not a patient anymore.
This is a
Had to
very
cut him
good
off.
reason to dismiss from the practice.
I've wanted to
Yes,
dismiss
very good.
people for much less. So crazy.
Yeah, and install cameras and stuff like that. That was the only major thing. I mean, that practice has been established since the 80s, and I don't think they ever had a break-in. And then that break-in happened, and then knock on wood, and thanks to God, nothing else has happened since then.
Gosh, so wild.
Well, it
So
was wild because they broke through my wall.
yes, that's a deal. Like that's a literal break-in. Like broke through your
Yeah.
wall. So Deanna, how do you manage I mean, being a clinical hygienist, I don't want to say is hard enough, but there's enough of a challenge there. How do you separate being a hygienist with having the business side of things? So how do you kind of marry the two or separate the two?
Oof. It's hard. I don't, because I'm doing hygiene full time. So um it is a challenge right now, especially because we are going through a little bit of changes, not with doctor, but like Brittany is getting ready to go to hygiene school herself to
Hey.
Pima. We thought she was getting in now in December, but now we have to wait till April. She got in the next job, but I hired another assistant. So now I have 3 assistants, 1 doctor, and then my front office, which is my daughter. Um, so it's kind of hard because we're not super busy now during these holidays. I mean, we're busy, but not for 3 assistants. So
Yeah.
it is kind of hard when I'm trying to clean teeth and I just like hear there's nothing going on, and I'm just like, okay, guys, like I already know you hear me polishing and then you get up and you pretend you're doing something when I know you're not.
Mm,
So it is kind of hard. So I mean, I sometimes I have to just like stop, make a meeting, and then just like set the boundaries down. Like, and I have to do that again. I'm going to do that like next week with the 2 new assistants. Like, put the boundaries. Like, you guys got to do something. This is going to be the cleanest office until Brittany goes because you guys are going to be cleaning all the time. I don't want downtime. And I understand like there's some downtime, but when it's like consistent, it's a problem. And those are things that I have to deal with on top of seeing my hygiene patients. I have to deal with those things. I have to deal with the financial part of it, and I have my daughter who is the front office and does the billing and all that stuff, and she's good, and she does the books at the end of the month. And if without her, I don't think I would have had this practice as long as I've had it. And so I find balance with like her being in the front,
mm,
managing the books, and it's been a challenge just because she's gone through a lot and she's been with me since day one for 10 years. And I think people get kind of bugged about that when new assistants come in. And it's like, well, man, she's pretty much part owner of my practice with me. So don't be getting attitude towards my daughter. But she's gone through a lot. Like last year she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
mm.
And so she had 3 different surgeries. And so she was out like probably a week for each one. And I mean, she probably, could have taken off a lot more time, but she came back right away. So in the meantime, she didn't finish her treatment and she ended up pregnant. So she didn't get to finish her cancer treatment. So she just had the baby now in September. So she took 6 weeks off. And so one of the assistants that I hired is like kind of running the front. Um, she has 10 years experience. I don't know. You get into the groove. It's been me, Brittany, and my daughter for like the last 6 years, and I already know Brittany as an assistant. I already know how I am. Like, we're quick. You get somebody else in there and you're just like, come on, you're dragging your feet. Let's get moving, and I kind of feel it with these 2 assistants that I just hired. And so those are things that I have to deal with, and how do I deal with it? And I have to deal with this new lady up in the front where she puts stuff in the computer and my daughter's like, I don't even know where she came up with these numbers. And I'm just like, and it's hard to like let go of it's hard to give that responsibility to somebody especially when you're not like 100% confident. And that's like the hardest thing since my daughter's been gone is like trying to trust somebody to the front office and are they doing a good job? And then finding like they're not doing that 100% job or 110% job that you want them to do. You know, I guess as a business owner that's what you always want, but not even as a business owner, because I feel like every time I was in the hygiene position or even when I was an assistant, I've always given like 110% of myself, not 100%. I'm not that I'll give you 100%, I'll give you 90%, I'll give you whatever. I'm like there to work and give you what I'm capable of doing and what I'm worth. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if I go and ask you for a raise, I'm going to want that raise because I feel like I gave you 110% that I've been working. Do I feel some of these people now do that? No. That's a little harsh. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. It's honest.
I expected
Deanna,
nothing
we
less.
have so much in common. When
I
have
you guys could be friends.
team members who are like dragging their feet and moving too slow, I get like so annoyed, so irked. I am
Yeah.
like, you have got to be faster. Like there has got to be another way. But you just told us so much there. I'm really sorry to hear about your daughter having cancer.
Mhm.
Congratulations on the grandbaby. And when you're talking about an extra assistant, my mind is like double hygiene, double hygiene, double hygiene.
I know. Like next week, I'm there by myself with the two assistants because doctor is going to be off, and I gave Brittany off the whole week, and I'm like, you know what? Start scheduling double hygiene. I have two of you here, and just people need to get in, put them in there. I don't think she's done it yet, but I'm like, just double book because I can have you guys take X-rays and I can have you guys polish. Like,
heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Deanna, going back to harsh and 110%. I've always known you to be like type A plus, basically. But like I said, it's not even from hygiene really that we know each other. It was just kind of one of those things that bonded us. But you also owned a gym. Tell us a little bit more about that venture.
I was crazy. So, gosh, it was 2008 when I opened the gym.
Okay.
And I don't know why I wanted to open a gym. I just knew I loved cardio and had done spin classes um in Las Lunas at Elite. And I just loved the spin classes, I guess. And I just got it in my head. Like that's one crazy thing about me. If I get something in my head, I usually go after it. It might not happen in like the first year I'm thinking or whatever, but I always have it in the back of my head and then I just like go after it and I kind of do it. So I had that, like I wanted to do it. And then I was telling my husband about it, like I want to do that. I know I need to do cardio, so I just need to open my own gym. How do you get cardio and open your own gym? And so we were looking for a place because he kind of got on board with that. And I found a place and I just kind of like had started research. I mean, everything starts with the research, right? I don't do so much now, but so I knew I wanted to do the spinning classes. I looked into it, what it would entail and buying the bikes and everything, found a place. And when we were fixing up the place to do it, my husband actually um, he got deployed. He got his orders to be deployed to Kosovo for 13 months. So I opened that gym actually when he was gone. So that was like kind of probably helped me with the deployment and stuff like that because I was busy with that. I kind of have always been that hygienist. Like I tell you, I ask him for what I want, and I believe that I am a good hygienist. So before I was with Dr. Combs, I was working in Albuquerque with Dr. Bundy, and my hours were literally 8 to 3 because I was that hygienist that I would do like 45-minute cleaning. So I'd get my 8 patients in, and we'd be done. Actually, I think it was probably 2. So us worked like 8 to 2 for like 6 years with Dr. Bundy. And I think I did that with Dr. Hickson actually too. I kind of made my hours or like I'm on off early. So I always like got off early, like at 2 o'clock. And so then so I always had like so I was off early and I did that over here with Dr. Combs before I took over the practice. So that kind of like helped with opening up the gym because I had the shorter hours. I could get off early. I could go teach classes and stuff like that. And we did it for 12 years, and I expanded from just having spin classes to Zumba. And I started off with the Les Mills classes, but they were Les Mills, just to call them a body pump class, is super expensive. It's like $300 a month just to call it Les Mills. And when you're like in a small town and people don't want to pay $35 for a month, you're like, okay, what do I do to cut corners? And I would go to continuing ed, and I met some lady and she told me about RIP. And she's like, that RIP class is identical to the Les Mills, same choreography, but you don't have the license agreement. So I did it. I switched from Les Mills to the RIP. So we did RIP classes, we did spin classes. Those were always solid, and the Zumba classes were always solid. So I grew it pretty good. I mean, like when I was probably I was the first, like, I guess group exercise class place in Valencia County back then. I was the first one with the spin classes, and then added the Zumba. And I was actually the first gym besides Daniel Fernandez, which was a community center, but I was the first gym to offer Zumba in Valencia County. So just kind of grew it from there, kept it for 12 years. And it got to be hard, just like with instructors, when, talk about like giving your all to everything and teaching classes and being committed, but you can't really pay your instructors that much because people don't want to pay a price for the gym membership, probably with the classes that were specialized with spinning and the RIP classes, easily should have been charging like $75 a month. But in Belen, again, being rural and small, people didn't want to pay it. So it was always hard to, like, if I went on vacation, because I have to go on trips, it was always hard to get away from the gym compared to like the dental office. At least the dental office, I could be like, okay, I'm leaving here, I'm scheduling my days off, I'm out. But with the gym, like I would try and tell them I'm gonna be gone for a week. Why don't you guys take a break? We can't take a break. Give us the keys to the gym. Let us in. Let us in. We'll come spin by ourselves. But so did that for 12 years. I mean, but then when you're in a small town and you have classes the way I do and like the Zumba and stuff like that. So other people, of course, can come up with their own ideas, and a lot of Zumba places popped up, and then another group exercise place popped up down the road. Do you remember that? Body Shock, right? She was
No.
at the Y, like around on El Cerro Loop, doing the same classes, the spin class. Well, she bought my old bikes when I
Yeah.
sold them. She bought the old bikes, and then she did all the Les Mills classes.
Just know I never
So
went to her classes.
so, that was kind of hard. And that took a lot of time. Like the gym took a lot of time. And, 4 o'clock in the morning, get up, teach classes in the afternoon, not be done till like 7. So like when COVID hit, it was like, this is a good time. This is a good time to just say, I'm done.
Well, and you did I was there. I did the 5 a.m. Zumba classes, never spin. I hate spin. I hate spin. But you would do those classes. Like sometimes you would teach 2 classes, like you and Frank, and then there were some other instructors that would do it for you. But then you would go to work all day and then do evening classes.
Yeah.
So
Like when I was telling you, when I was doing before I owned the practice, like, so when I was getting off like at 2 o'clock, like it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Get off at 2, rest, and then go teach classes. But when I started back probably, Erica probably started with me in 2015 at the dental office, a couple years after. So then I was only working 2 days. And so I did that from 2015 to 2012. For 5 years, I just worked part-time. But then right before COVID, she got she got hired full-time with the Sleda, which we knew was going to happen.
yeah.
She had told me, and but she didn't know when. And then I guess over the holiday, that right before COVID, one of their hygienists quit. So she like called me, just had knee surgery, replaced my knee. I was supposed to have 6 weeks off. And she's like, hey, they called me from a Sleda and they need an answer now. I'm calling to tell you, I'm giving you my 2 weeks or I'm going to miss my opportunity over there. I'm like, oh, okay. So there I go back after my knee surgery, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks after with my walker and everything, start seeing patients. And I did hire another girl that was with, I think she was part-time with Conquistador.
Mm.
And so I tried her out for a while, but then COVID hit and everything went kind of crazy with COVID.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a challenge, but the dental office like always does good. Like the dental office is like my good happy space, right? So I qualified for like absolutely everything that went on with like COVID, like the payroll protection program, and I was able to get the EIDL. I got a lot of grants and stuff like that. So when COVID hit, I was able to like keep everybody on payroll even though we weren't working. And
That's
then I got
awesome.
the payroll protection to pay everyone back. And I had kept that girl, like she'd barely started and then COVID hit and she barely started and I kept her on payroll. And then when it comes back up, we can see patients, she freaking leaves me and went full time at the other place. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You
Oh,
know,
heartbreak.
I guess that's like part of like you guys hiring people is the hard part besides a dentist. But luckily I've had good ones that I hadn't, but like some that I've hired, like her, and I had her on payroll. Plus she was trying to get like unemployment. I think she had to pay it back. But so that was kind of hard. And then just during that time, I was like, forget it. I'm not going to hire anybody now that it's COVID. I don't want to like, because COVID was crazy. We all know like they made it crazier than what it was, right? I mean, we
Yes.
always protect ourselves, but then at the same time, I didn't really want like her working over there. What if she was exposed and then she came over here and exposed my patient? So I was like, it's probably better off if I just do hygiene. Don't bring another floating hygienist back
Yeah.
and forth. So then ever since then, I've been full time now. So then I think that was like my thing too, was a good time for the gym. Like I'm going to be full time doing hygiene. I'm going to, we're tired. I've done it for 12 years. This is an expensive hobby. It's just time to get out. It was a good time. And I was, and then COVID being crazy, like no one being able to get weights on Amazon. I mean, I had some like a bunch of hand weights, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, just little hand weights. I probably sold them in like 2 lunch hours when I put them out posted when I closed because no one could get weights on Amazon because COVID was crazy.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
and then I sold, you remember my old my old rip, the original Les Mills
oh, yeah.
set. I mean, yeah, like all of those and my hand weights, literally like I met people at lunchtime, 2 lunch hours, and I got rid of all of them. They were buying those sets and everything.
That's
It was
crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
So, um, going back to what it's like to just start a business in New Mexico. There's New Mexico's not known as being the most business friendly state, but you would know better than I would. What were like the specific regulations for a hygienist owning a practice? What were those steps that you had to go through?
Boy, I don't even know if I did them right or not. I just
Well,
had to
you've done
fill
something
out
right.
I kind of went with like all the paper. Of course, like just doing all of your the basics of running a business, your CRS, all your tax ID numbers and all that stuff, right? Just in general to file taxes. And then as far as I don't even know if I filled out a collaborative one. Honestly, I think I got a non-dentist owner license and a hygienist locally here decided to report me and saying I wasn't doing it right. I think
I
you know
can
who I'm
take a
talking
guess
about.
who you're talking about.
And so whenever they went up before the board, and she should have known because she's like on the board, they were like, she's not doing anything wrong. A hygienist in New Mexico can hire a dentist. And I got a non-dentist owner. I just had to fill it out one time and I think a collaborative one that I renew. But
Mm,
other than that, it wasn't really that hard.
interesting. So there are 2 different ways to own a practice in New Mexico, collaborative and then non-dentist own.
Well, yeah, and I don't really think a hygienist really needs a non-dentist owner thing because they actually refunded me my money when I send in that application.
Oh, wow.
It's just kind of weird. But they just said a hygienist in New Mexico can own the practice and have the dentist work for them.
Hmm.
And I've been doing it for 10 years. And so has the other one. The other one's been doing it longer than me.
That's interesting. Yeah, I remember the one that owns it in Peralta. She came in to Dr. Hickson's office, gosh, when I first started, and she was asking about renting out space before she bought that one large practice space there in Peralta. So,
Yeah.
okay. So what advice would you have? So obviously still other states aren't quite up to speed with New Mexico about owning practices, but what advice would you have for a hygienist that's aspiring to own their own practice?
To not be afraid to take risks, because the patients are there and it will all come together if you can find a dentist, and don't be afraid to go full time. I just say that because I have another friend who's like has a dentist like a couple times a month, but she has a ton of patients and I'm like, you need to bite the bullet. It's going to happen. You just need to get a full-time dentist. And
Mm.
she finally did. And I mean, she has the patient load. It was just a matter, she was just afraid it wasn't going to happen. I just feel like dentistry it's always going to be there. And if you're get a dentist that's like credentialed with all the insurances, it's going to happen. You're going to have the patient base. The best way to do it is I would never be a hygienist and be like, oh, quit my job and go open my own practice. It doesn't like work that way. So I know like here a lot in New Mexico, it's these baby boomer dentists that are wanting to retire, but they don't have anybody to buy the practice yet. So the hygienist can like move into that spot and be like, I'll buy your practice. And then they have to find. So it's an established practice already. So always buy an established practice, preferably one that you've been in where you know the patient base, that you've been cleaning their teeth and they know you and they trust you. So when you bring in these different dentists, they trust that you're bringing in someone competent that's going to take care of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's solid advice.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my dogs are barking. There's a
And,
stranger.
and be careful on salespeople and buying equipment, because they'll sell you anything under the sun. They don't give a shit what you're making in money and what you can afford. So be very leery of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you knew I remodeled my whole office.
I think I saw that. Didn't you buy the office space next to you?
So I did buy that just now, but I had already remodeled all last year and got all like new chairs and cabinets and everything like that too. So
Oof. Who did you go with?
Patterson
Oh,
for my chairs and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I don't blame you. Um, would you say you had any sort of mentorship during any of the process within your life? No, just your personality just
No.
drove everything.
Well, I tried to talk to Donna, the one that's in Bosque Farms, but she wasn't really too much help or anything.
Mm.
So as far as buying the practice and doing it, there wasn't really any mentorship. I would say like maybe advice from maybe who, I don't know if you remember Donna Nelson
Mhm.
from Henry Schein.
Oh yeah,
She kind of like honestly kind of like probably helped me out because I've always used her as a sales rep. Like everywhere I would go, I would like recommend her.
Donna is
And
everybody.
so she helped me out like a couple of times with like with Dr. Ritchie, like that's how I got him and stuff like that. And she was always very supportive of my business.
Fun fact, did you know Donna is now working at Redwood State Park in California?
Yeah, I just texted her the other day.
Everybody knows Donna.
Everybody knows Donna.
So,
Yeah.
um, so what else? Joffrey, do you have questions? I know I'm kind of just like having a conversation with Deanna here, but
No,
do you
no,
have-
I'm listening. I'm engaged. Deanna, so okay, I wanted to kind of dive into your hygiene department a little bit. And so you've got this rural area, you do have the patient base, you're the only hygienist in there. as the owner, you know how difficult it is getting those insurance reimbursements back. What are you doing to keep your hygiene department profitable?
Working through lunch,
That one extra patient a
like I
day?
did today. You know, shoot. I don't know if I really focus a lot on mine being profitable. It's a good question. I mean, we keep it pretty booked. Like if Sabrina's there normally, my schedule stays pretty booked. Now that I have that other girl there, there's a lot more holes in it. Just try and stay on top of the recalls. If I have um kids, I try and do sealants on the same appointment. I have a lot of like if I do have like you get I we're kind of cutting back on the Medicaid, but I do have some, and so if I have some really good Medicaid patients, and
Mhm.
so they only get cleaned like once a year, but I have them like I'm pretty good at like being able to sell to them like, hey, you need to come in every 6 months, you need to pay this much money, and I can get them to come back. Um, do I don't do a lot of scale and root planes. I mean, I'll go through times when we do. It's kind of like coming from the office wherever that I bought it from. Dr. Combs did
Mhm.
not believe in scale and root planes like at all. Like it was like so I kind of like I believe in them, but I kind of also see where he was coming from because you spend so much time on all these like deep cleanings and like that, and then they come in and you're like, what did I do on you? Your teeth are the same way. But so how like profitable it I can't really answer it, honestly. That's a terrible question. It's a terrible answer for you, but
Well, it's your
I just,
answer. It's
I
not
mean,
terrible.
with Medicaid, like once a year, they actually pay really good on a scale with gingival
Mhm.
inflammation. It's like $118. So try and do a lot of the scaling with gingival inflammation. I'm trying to
Mhm.
take more advantage of doing the x-rays like before I would just do straight across 4 bite wings because that's all my other dentists wanted. And then I think when Erica came in, it was more doing the 4 bite wings and 2 PAs or the 3 PAs. So doing a lot more of that to make it a little bit profitable on that. And actually I don't know why I wasn't doing it before because it's unbelievable how much decay people have on their anterior teeth that come up. So I guess that, and I don't even really push fluoride that much besides on kids, but I guess I could be more profitable with fluoride and stuff. Um, that's about it. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, well, I wanna know what you're doing because I think, with my mind here, I'm thinking, gosh, that would be my concern as a hygienist buying into the practice is making sure it's profitable. And so I was like, what are you doing to make sure that that happens?
Well, so like for as far as like, so my profit comes off, um, it becomes profitable with all the stuff that comes out from what, okay, so like you got to work together with your dentist, right?
Mhm,
So the profit too, a lot of it comes from just all the dentistry. You know what I mean? The
mhm,
dentistry is where the profit is. And then so we've expanded out besides okay, so going just the whole overview of everything. We're doing Sure Smile aligners. So
mm,
that's pretty good. And then plus we're also doing aesthetics. So I got her certified in doing aesthetics. So we're doing Botox and fillers. So that brings in a good chunk of
mm.
change on being very profitable. Also, a good profit margin is actually implants. Implants are quick, they don't take that much time, and they're pretty easy. And so implants are pretty profitable.
When did the hygienist, because it's a hygienist, because you're able to do Botox, correct?
No, not in New
No.
Mexico.
Okay, I was gonna
Hmm.
say, wait a second, I missed that one.
No, I wish. I mean, I don't know. I would do basic stuff, but no, it's not. So the doctor does all of the filler and the
Oh, okay.
Botox.
Do you
Mhm.
guys do, like, a separate aesthetics day, or do you just work it into your regular schedule?
We work it into our regular schedule, but we've been lately, so I don't know if you've seen it like last week. I
Mhm.
did So I had the party in that building that I bought. So the rep that I use, Daxify, that rep for the neurotoxin is really, really good. And so she's encouraged like parties. So we've already done 3 different parties. The first time we did it in conjunction kind of with my 10-year anniversary, and it was crazy. Just that 10-year anniversary celebration was crazy. I probably had 60 people walk through my dental office between 1 and 5, 1 and 5, 1 and 3, something like that. Like 60 people that came to check out the office. A lot of them came in to check out the aesthetics part of it. And
Oh,
we had
wow.
That is
drawings
so
and
impressive.
put a taco truck and everybody shows up. But like it was so crazy. It started at 1 and then we pushed it. And I guess because it was the 10-year celebration and we're doing drawings, people in my little front room, like by 1 o'clock, there was probably like 10, 15 people in there. It was crazy.
Hmm.
I never seen anything like that. Like we were either it's gonna be a flop or it's gonna be crazy, and it ended up being like really crazy.
That's
Oh,
And so
awesome,
we
good.
did
though.
the aesthetics then, and then we did one now in November, and then we did one last Thursday. But last Thursday I kind of did it a little bit different. I just kind of wanted to like focus on our aesthetics, but I also wanted to bring in some small businesses kind of that did the same thing. So we had photo shoots, like that lady, there were like pop-up vendors so people could see other businesses that offer different stuff.
That's
So
so
we had
cool.
facials, lashes, the photos, and then the neurotoxins.
That's like the ultimate like small business community engagement. I think that's the smartest thing. And again, like you're such a backbone in the community. So I know those small businesses absolutely appreciated that platform, but I mean obviously
Yeah.
that's profitable for you as well and just amazing just for the patients to be able to have those services all at once. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It was fun. It was a really good time. So it's just fun to kind of network like that.
Mhm.
So I don't know where I'm going to go with that building, and I don't necessarily want to. I mean, if I had a real motivated dentist that is wants to stay long term, then I'd bust a wall down and make my office bigger. Or do I just want to rent it out? I'm thinking like maybe I want to get something medical in there though. I don't know
Yeah.
if I want to do a med spa. I would love to do a med spa actually, but I don't know if I want to go that route. So,
Do you have any other plans for other like community engagement activities or events?
uh, not not as of now. I don't. I do a lot with like just the the patients that I see and that come into the office, like, I always just do the regular donations to the church, to the basketball teams, to the football teams. So I kind of try and support them like
Mhm.
that way. And it's usually a monetary donation. I have tried, even with the gym, to give like silent auction items, bleaching. Do people turn them in? They don't ever come. I'm like, why am I donating this? Nobody uses them. It's really weird. You donate free bleaching, you donate electric tooth. They'll take the electric toothbrush, but like say the free bleaching or something like that. Or like $500 credit towards whatever you want at the dental office. They never come in after they win them. And I'm just like,
Whoa.
weird. It's
Hmm.
totally weird.
Oh,
I don't
blank.
get it.
That's crazy. Well, Joffrey, do you want to close us with the last two questions unless you had any other
Yes. Oh,
follow-ups?
yeah, I do have one other question. With okay, so you're into bringing in the Botox into the office. Are you guys what other technologies have you brought in or other stuff, right? Like, so do you guys have like a
Oh gosh.
laser in your hygiene? Like what kind of cool stuff
You know
do you
what?
have
I
in
did have a laser. I don't know, it got put away somewhere. I tried the laser for a little bit. I don't know if I was super impressed with it, but there is a laser in there. But on the other note, I have a CBCT for
Oh, wow.
3D um for her implants. We have the prime scan, so we're not doing alginate impressions anymore. We got the prime
Nice.
scan. and everything's like digital. So all my x-rays are digital and stuff like that. And I just bought a 3D printer
Whoa,
in
look
the
at
summer.
you.
Deanna, you're an
Yeah.
absolute like inspiration. There are going to be so many hygienists listening to this podcast, like getting all excited to open up their own practice. So, really, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Mhm.
There are 2 signature questions Amanda and I love to ask at the end of the podcast. And I'll ask the first one. What do you wish you would have learned in school that took you years to learn in practice?
Oh my gosh, I read that question. I was like, what am I going to answer for that? Honestly, I guess like when I was in school, they preached about like, oh, you're a hygienist. You can make your own hours. You can do this. You can work, part-time, make hours, whatever you want. Um, I had dental background, like assisting. So when I got out, I knew when I got in there, I knew I was gonna like hygiene, right? Because I'd been in there. Because I know there were so many hygienists that like did it hygiene, and then when they got in the real world, they didn't really like it. But one of the things is that they really, when I was in school, they made it like you can be your own boss. Like you can do your own hours and do all this. When you get out there, that's not, I don't know if they still do that, but it's not the way it is. I mean, ultimately, you're an employee. You got to work the hours that they want you to work. So I kind of wish that they wouldn't have pushed like you're your own person. You can make your own hours. You can make, if you're part time, you can make like, oh, I'm going to work 2 days a week and that's all I'm going to work. But you can't go in and be like, oh, I'm going to take 2 hour lunch and I'm going to get off at 3. I mean, ultimately, you're an employee to somebody else. And then hygienists should know that. Um, although I did make my own hours, I used to get off at 2. And then otherwise, just because I had the background, I think I was pretty well prepped. And I think that I wish they would kind of maybe give hygienists more actual days of what a hygiene day is, of like seeing 8 patients a day. So they're like up to speed when they come out. Because I feel like I wasn't probably up to speed where I should be when I first came out.
Yeah.
Sheila, that's not the answer.
I know.
No.
No, I think the reminder, like you are an employee. There's a balance between, being under somebody's thumb, but having realistic expectations as an employee. That there does need to be that balance. Like it's not reasonable as a new grad, like you were kind of saying, to expect $45 an hour when you're not bringing in that profit. You can't see all those patients. You can't quite fulfill the shoes of the job. And so, no,
And I think they need to know that. I think that they tell them, like, you can ask for this. Like, you're a hygienist. Like, this is what the going rate is. Make your own hours, ask for this much pay. And it's not realistic. It's not what the real world is. But I think now that, I don't know, you guys are probably in the same. Are you guys in like a shortage of hygienists now in Utah?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mhm.
and so like now they can technically ask for that much just because there is a shortage, and the dentists are desperate.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's a weird time. I I graduated in 2008 and it was a very, very different market. And yeah, you
Well,
took
but
what
I
you
think
got.
on another, like when I first got out, and I was probably making, I'm gonna say I started at, was it 120 a day and it went up to like 210 or something, like
Mhm.
as the years went on. But we weren't ever offered health insurance, retirements, and stuff like that. Maybe some holiday pay and maybe a week vacation, but I never had benefits
Mhm.
ever. So that's too why I got into like owning my own business, because I didn't have no retirement. Like I screwed myself. I'm like, dude, you didn't even like save up for retirement. So this is like my retirement nest egg. But like now when they're coming out, I mean, they're getting $45 an hour, plus they're getting benefits, plus they're probably getting a retirement. I mean, so that $45 just went up to like well above $50 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's where it gets hard, because like all my employees all have health insurance and I pay for it. So like right now my premiums for health insurance are at least $1,500 a month for my employees. It's like $300 a person. So on top of what they're getting paid, that $300 is technically part of their salary, right? Even though I'm paying it. So, I was never offered any of that. And now it's like you have to give that to all your employees.
Yeah.
I
Oh, business ownership.
know.
Okay, last question. So, what piece of advice do you wish you could go back and give yourself as a new graduate?
Um, the advice would be learn as much as you can through continuing education. Always, just always keep learning, always keep that door open and learn what's going on, what's the newest technologies, what's the newest thing that's going on with hygiene and perio, and just stay on top of everything. I think would probably be my advice. I stay on top of it. I'm pretty basic though. Um, I would just and enjoy it. And let me erase all of that. Hygiene is super hard on your body. That's like one thing that I should really talk about. That hygiene is super hard on your body. You're going to end up with neck problems, back problems. So probably what I would tell myself, advice I would give is to be very, very fit and exercise a lot and keep yourself strong. You know what I mean? Because it is hard. I mean, you need to, it is a rough field. I mean, I am battling right now, honestly. I'm battling with arthritis in both of my thumbs. And it's, so I'm getting shots like every 3 to 4 months. So I
Oh,
don't even know like how much longer I'm going to be doing it. I still truck along. I'm trying to space out my shots, but hygiene is super, super rough on your body. Take the time to exercise and be strong, strengthen your core, be sure and, take time for yourself as far as doing like massages, any kind of self-care, because it is very, very, very rough. And it can even be mentally exhausting depending on your patients. I mean, you can tell a patient something and then you walk out of the room and they tell the doctor something different, or you know what I mean? Or you talk to somebody, you think they understand what you're doing, and then they walk out of the office and they're like, okay, I don't understand what she was talking about. It's like, it's mentally challenging, but it's also physically challenging. So take that time to reward yourself with like massages, stretching out, and just being physically fit. Honestly, that's what I would tell myself.
completely.
Those are great answers,
Completely.
Deanna. Those are good. Everyone has something different every time we ask them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Deanna, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's see here.